For centuries, the narrative of European development has often been told in isolation, a story of internal innovation and singular progress. We learn of ancient Greece, the Roman Empire, and the Renaissance as if they emerged from a vacuum, self-contained and self-sufficient. But what if this narrative is incomplete? What if the very foundations of European civilization, its trade, its knowledge, its wealth, were profoundly shaped by a continent often relegated to the periphery of historical discourse? We are about to embark on a journey to uncover a forgotten truth, a truth that reveals the deep, intricate, and often surprising connections between Africa and Europe. This is not a story of one continent dominating another, but of a profound reciprocal exchange, an exchange that laid the groundwork for much of what we recognize as European advancement. It's time to reframe our understanding of history, to look beyond the familiar, and discover the untold story of how Africa developed Europe. But before then, in our last video, we talked about how Europe underdeveloped Africa. If you have not watched it, do well to watch it, like and share it. It's a video you can't afford to miss. Also do well to smash the bell notification so you don't have to miss any update. Now, long before the modern era, Africa was a vibrant tapestry of civilizations, bustling with trade, innovation, and intellectual pursuit. These were not isolated societies, but dynamic centers of power and knowledge, deeply interconnected with the wider world. Their influence on early Europe was far more significant than commonly acknowledged. Consider the Phoenicians, master mariners, and traders of the ancient world. Their extensive trade networks stretched across the Mediterranean, linking the coasts of North Africa with nascent European settlements. From African ports, they transported precious metals, exotic goods, and vital resources, fueling early European economies and fostering cultural exchange. This maritime bridge was a conduit for much more than just commodities. The towering achievements of ancient Egypt, for instance, cast a long shadow over the Mediterranean. Egyptian architectural principles, mathematical understanding, and astronomical observations were not confined to the Nile Valley. They traveled north, profoundly influencing early Greek philosophy, science, and monumental construction. The very concept of geometry, fundamental to Western thought, has deep roots in Egyptian land surveying and building practices. Further south, the Kingdom of Kush, a powerful civilization in ancient Nubia, stood as a formidable economic and military force. Kush was a major center for iron production, its furnaces blazing with technological prowess. Its trade routes extended far and wide, connecting with Egypt and, through intermediaries, reaching the Roman Empire. Kushite gold, iron, and other resources were integral to the regional economy, demonstrating Africa's role as a supplier of critical materials and advanced metallurgy. These early interactions were not merely transactional. They were transformative. Through trade, cultural exchange, and even military encounters, African innovations and resources flowed into Europe. They provided the raw materials, the intellectual sparks, and the economic impetus that helped shape the nascent societies of the European continent. But how did these early interactions translate into lasting impact and specific innovations? While Europe navigated its early medieval period, powerful African empires flourished, reaching pinnacles of wealth, knowledge, and political sophistication. These empires were not only self-sufficient, but actively shaped global trade routes and influenced distant economies, including those in Europe. Their impact was profound, often through their control of vital resources and strategic trade networks. The Mali Empire, for example, stands as a testament to African prosperity and organizational genius. Its legendary ruler, Mansa Musa, is often cited as one of the wealthiest individuals in history. His immense fortune derived primarily from Mali's vast gold reserves. His pilgrimage to Mecca in the 14th century, with its lavish display of gold, left an indelible impression across the Middle East and Europe, literally putting Mali on the world map. Mali's gold fueled European economies, providing the precious metal necessary for coinage, trade, and the accumulation of wealth by European monarchs and merchants. Without this steady supply of gold from West Africa, the economic expansion of medieval Europe would have been severely constrained. The gold trade routes, meticulously managed by empires like Mali and its predecessor Ghana, were lifelines connecting African wealth to European markets. Further east, along the Swahili coast, a vibrant network of city-states thrived on Indian Ocean trade. Kilwa, Mombasa, and Zanzibar were cosmopolitan hubs, connecting Africa with Arabia, Persia, India, and even China. They traded in gold, ivory, timber, and spices, creating immense wealth and fostering a unique Swahili culture. While their direct trade with Europe was less pronounced than West Africa's, their economic power and control over crucial maritime routes indirectly influenced global commerce, including European access to Eastern goods. These African empires were not just sources of raw materials. They were sophisticated political entities with complex administrative systems, advanced legal codes, and thriving intellectual centers. Their control over critical trade routes and resources had a tangible impact on European economies and political structures, demonstrating Africa's central role in the global economic landscape of the medieval period. But how did African ideas and art further shape European society beyond mere economics? The flow of influence between Africa and Europe was not limited to trade and resources. It encompassed a rich exchange of ideas, knowledge, and artistic expression. African scholars, artists, and innovators played a crucial, though often overlooked, role in shaping European thought and culture, particularly during periods of significant intellectual ferment. One of the most profound channels of this exchange was through the spread of Islamic scholarship. From the 8th century onwards, Islamic civilization, with its roots in North Africa and the Middle East, became a beacon of learning. Major intellectual centers like Cairo, Fez, and Timbuktu, all located in Africa, housed vast libraries and universities. Scholars in these cities preserved, translated, and expanded upon ancient Greek, Roman, and Persian texts, while also making groundbreaking original contributions in mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy. When parts of Europe, particularly Spain, came under Islamic rule, this wealth of knowledge became accessible. European scholars traveled to these centers of learning, translating Arabic texts into Latin, thereby reintroducing classical knowledge and new scientific concepts to a Europe that had largely lost touch with its ancient intellectual heritage. African scholars, many of whom were instrumental in these intellectual endeavors, directly contributed to the European Renaissance by providing the intellectual scaffolding upon which it was built. Beyond academia, African artistic traditions also found their way into European aesthetics. While often subtle, influences can be traced in various forms, from textile patterns to metalwork. The intricate designs and symbolic representations found in African art provided new visual vocabularies that, over time, contributed to the broader artistic landscape. Even agricultural techniques, such as irrigation methods and crop cultivation practices, developed in various parts of Africa, were adopted and adapted in European regions, improving food production and sustaining growing populations. The contributions of African scholars, artists, and innovators were not peripheral. They were integral. They provided the intellectual stimulus, the practical knowledge, and the artistic inspiration that enriched European society in countless ways. This period highlights a dynamic, multi-directional flow of ideas, challenging the notion of a singular, self-generated European intellectual tradition. But what happened when the relationship shifted, and the balance of power changed dramatically? The intricate and often mutually beneficial relationship between Africa and Europe underwent a tragic and profound transformation with the advent of the transatlantic slave trade. This period marked a devastating turning point, shifting the dynamic from one of exchange and influence to one of exploitation and subjugation. Millions of Africans were forcibly removed from their homelands, their labor stolen, and their societies destabilized. This horrific enterprise, driven by European colonial ambitions and the demand for cheap labor in the Americas, fundamentally altered the course of both continents. It fueled the economic growth of European powers, providing the capital and resources that underpin the Industrial Revolution and the expansion of global empires. Yet, it simultaneously crippled African development, stripping the continent of its most vital resource, its people. The legacy of this period is complex and enduring. It left deep scars on African societies, contributing to economic disparities and political instability that persist to this day. For Europe, while it brought immense wealth to some, it also created a moral stain and a historical debt that continues to be debated and addressed. The wealth accumulated through this brutal system undeniably contributed to Europe's rise to global dominance. However, even amidst this tragedy, the profound, centuries-long history of African influence on Europe cannot be erased. The foundations laid by ancient trade, the intellectual contributions of African scholars, and the economic power of African empires remain undeniable facts. The transatlantic slave trade represents a rupture, a violent reordering of a relationship that had, for millennia, been characterized by a far more nuanced and often reciprocal exchange. Understanding this complex legacy requires acknowledging both the immense contributions of Africa to Europe's development and the devastating impact of later exploitation. It demands a re-evaluation of historical narratives, moving beyond simplistic views to embrace the full, intricate tapestry of human interaction. This is not just history, it is a vital lens through which to understand our present and shape our future. The story of how Africa shaped Europe is vast, multifaceted, and far from fully told. We have only scratched the surface of millennia of profound interactions, innovations, and influences. This journey through forgotten histories challenges us to reconsider established narratives and embrace a more inclusive understanding of global development. We encourage you to delve deeper, to question, and to explore. What aspects of this history resonated most with you? What other connections do you believe are often overlooked? Your insights and perspectives are invaluable as we collectively work to uncover and understand these vital historical truths. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Like this video if you found it informative and thought-provoking. Subscribe to our channel for more explorations into the untold stories of our world beyond known. And share this video with others who might be interested in a fresh perspective on history. Together we can bring these forgotten narratives to light and foster a more complete understanding of our shared past. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Every clue leads deeper into the unknown. Don't stop here. Your next discovery awaits in the following video. Click and see what others have missed.